In this video, I'm going to answer a bunch of advanced SEO questions, and this is an actual consulting gig that I did with a client, and I actually don't take on consulting clients anymore, and I'll explain why at the end of the video, but this is a Q&A type of video, so the client is asking me questions, and I'm answering those advanced SEO questions for him. So if you have a lot of advanced SEO questions, or you just have a lot of SEO questions in general, this video is going to be really helpful because we really dive deep into some advanced topics. So if you're excited about this video and you want more videos like this where I answer advanced SEO questions, then drop a comment below saying more and make sure you like this video. So with that said, let's jump right in.
All right, so first of all, one of the techniques that you talk a lot about and that we start to implement a lot is the skyscraper.
Okay.
And the question, so Neil Patel has a thing that he recently published like 3-4 days ago, and that's essentially about automating. And I don't know how much he goes into it. I don't know if you read it, but it's essentially, hey, there's a process of research, and he's going into his tool to research it, then rewrite it, or expand on it and completely redo it, and then obviously outreach. So he kind of uses 3 different tools for it, and he doesn't go into details about how to rewrite it. But our thoughts were, and I don't know what you would think about it, is to what about AI to rewrite an article initially and then post it so it starts to kind of get traction a little bit and start working with outreach while our writers get to it, because it takes our writers a long time to develop these big pieces, 7,000, 4,000 words articles, and sometimes it takes weeks or a couple months to get to an article. What do you think about that kind of strategy?
Yeah, I mean, those are kind of, you can approach that 2 different ways. So, the way that I obviously like to approach things is try to put the best piece of content out initially.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a different school of thought where you're doing more of like a minimum viable piece of content.
Yeah.
And I've done both approaches and they both work equally as well. But although developing the content may take longer, if the content is good out of the gate, it will decrease the amount of time you'll need to get links.
Mm-hmm.
So it ends up kind of evening itself out almost to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, that's given that the content is built to acquire links. It is something that is actually link worthy,
Right.
which I don't know what the topics are. But yeah, I mean, you can use both approaches. I've used both, but my personal preference is just to try to go all in on the content.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel good when nothing's being published because you're just working on like one really big asset.
Yeah.
But in the long run, I've seen a better result from doing that as opposed to just like putting a bunch of stuff out and iterating on that content to try to improve it over time.
Mm-hmm.
It works, but to me, it's almost like logistically more challenging to do it that way, because then it's like now you're managing all these different assets, trying to improve those, and then when do you know that it's actually at a level that it deserves to be? So it's kind of like, it's weird in that respect. And when you do the other way, where it's just all in focus on developing the best asset possible, at least you've done the best that you can, and then in like 3 to 6 months from now, you can see that performance and be like, okay, this one didn't do very well, so maybe we need to switch things up. So
yeah,
just my personal approach, of course.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. But I guess our challenges when you talk about link worthiness is we're more or less in niche content. And what we've found was when we reach out to these different referrers, so to say, whoever linked to our competitors, they all ask for money. They all seem to be shady, or they all seem to be like bought links. One way or the other. So it seems like nobody's linking to such niche content, and that's where we found challenges to actually develop organic, natural backlinks with real traffic, real people visiting. And it was always, and like in some of the posts you were saying, we had to pay plenty to get a site linked to us with real traffic. And all of the outreach attempts so far, I mean, we're going to try more reverse guest posting, but so far just regular with templates, 404s and everything. It ended up to be, hey, okay, sure, we'll post it. Give me $50, $100.
Yeah, and I wish I could tell you it's going to be a different story, but that is the way it works. At least when it comes to outreach.
Right.
Um,
So that is a normal thing that we are experiencing. So I don't have a problem paying for it. Relatively cheap still. You know, like
yeah,
in a really legit article with tons of traffic, it can cost $1,000. You know, I mean, 500 is easily expected, but if for $50 and then it has some real traffic, you know, some real users, it's just like should people be like, yeah, sure, I'll post it for free? Because I've never seen it in my life.
it doesn't happen often. Only very rarely. Like I've seen in a few industries where it's not like so just attacked heavily with SEOs where it does work, but you should just assume that if you're doing outreach, you're going to have to pay.
Okay.
That's just like,
That's
you should
normal,
just assume
right?
that. Yeah. But you know, see, the thing is, I like to combine outreach because first of all, that's active link building, right? So you're like actually going out there and trying to get those links because you need that traction to get results in other ways.
Mm-hmm.
But then, you know, at the same time, I'm always thinking about how to create linkable assets.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are assets that will attract links naturally if the right people see them and the right websites see them.
Yeah.
So pretty much anything that's data driven, especially unique data, is like my go-to when it comes to linkable assets.
Yeah.
So if you can develop some sort of unique data, unique case study that people would want to reference to, that's really works well.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, it's when it comes to active link building, you unfortunately will have to pay the price a lot of the time.
And that's all right. Yeah, as long as it's a normal thing and it's not like I'm just running into an industry where everybody is just buying stuff and it's nothing is natural, then hey, you know. But
yeah.
If,
I mean, you gotta. The way I kind of have thought about it, just to kind of change my perspective, is like this is a collaboration. That's the way I think about it. Like, okay, basically a link is promoting your brand, therefore it's a collaboration, therefore they should get paid to show the link, right? Because it's their website, they built it up, so it's only fair ultimately. So that's kind of how I've like rationalized it. But at the same time, like from Google's perspective, it's technically against their guidelines.
Right.
So, but you know, you got to do what you got to do to get SEO results. So
I think from Google's perspective, the only thing you can do is just talk about it, yep, and then optimize your website to be fast. But yeah, they don't like anything for you to do. They're not your friend.
No, of course not. And how would they know anyway?
Yeah.
There's no way that they know that money has exchanged hands unless they're scraping our Gmails, which is possible. But so that's
Superhuman.
A different topic.
Have you heard of Superhuman email?
Yeah, I have.
I'm talking to them now. I don't know if I should try. So,
yeah.
But it's supposedly nice. So yeah. All right, let's go into next question. So obviously I've heard you've heard about it, and you know I heard it's black hat, but I'm not sure. Buying domain drops. What are your thoughts? Is there a legit way to utilize good domain drops?
So expired domains, or just any domain that's dropped, essentially.
Yeah.
Yes, there are good ways to do it. I will say that right now, the safest thing to do is try to acquire a live website. So if you can find a website in your industry that's like just a ghost town, they haven't posted in forever, but they have a good link profile, that's a golden opportunity to acquire that site and then redirect it to your site. Yeah. And of course, you know, how you go about redirecting, that's kind of a different discussion, because you pretty much, when you do a redirect like that, you only want to redirect pages that actually have links, and then all the other pages from that previous site should just 404. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we've ran into a piece of article, and we've tested it, and I can tell you a little bit about it and let me know your thoughts. So essentially, this gentleman did this following practice. He would acquire drops, you know, expired domains, preferably recently expired, very recently, and then he would take that domain and do a 301 on one of the, you know, pages that is more or less, you know, not the corner piece, okay, and see how it performs, and if it performs well, then he would start rebuilding the website from, you know, archive.org or whatever the thing is called, and then, you know, start rebuilding it, and then can even post content and so forth, do that kind of stuff. So we've tried that. We've had very good success. Obviously, on a very, you know, bottom page, so to say, not very important, but it was evident and clear it worked. And then the question is, okay, should we? It is a little bit scary in the sense of, hey, we don't want Google to really think, hey, we're catching you. You're doing some black hat right there. If that's what they think is what it is, and so, but it is working. The question is now, should we start plugging in more main pages? Should we start restoring content on those websites?
Yeah, and it's not an easy answer, unfortunately, because it is going to be case dependent. But you do need to be careful with redirects. Like, you don't want to go too overboard. I've seen some sites where they have like just way overboard. They have like 30 different sites like redirecting to their site. That's a huge footprint. Right. But redirects are a normal part of the internet, you know. So to have them isn't going to, you know, raise a bunch of red flags. And so I've done it with local businesses. I've done it with national businesses. It works. Mm-hmm. And it makes sense, but a couple key points. Relevance is key, has to be relevant. That's so important. And then also, like I said, you know, between getting expired domains and acquiring existing websites that are still live, I would pick a live website any day of the week. Yeah. Just because basically you're just acquiring it and you're immediately getting that redirect, and it didn't drop, it didn't expire. So to me, that looks a lot more trustworthy. Yeah. Which it's also more difficult to do that as well. So like right now, I'm in a few discussions with different tools that I'm trying to acquire, and like they never even had the thought that someone would buy them out. So like you email them, they're like, oh wait, you want to buy my website? And they're like super confused. But then they're like, oh. And they're like, I don't even know what I'd sell for, but like, what's your offer? And then so now, you know, now there's a negotiation. So,
yeah. But it's a complementing tool, not just, hey, I'm a data recovery company, I'm buying another data recovery company, and we're just going to merge content. I guess it's like a complementary tool. Like I could go, I'm a data recovery service provider. I guess I could go out there and seek to buy a data recovery software provider. You know, that would go hand in hand. Okay.
That's exactly right. And I'll just give you like a practical example. Like we have an STD testing company that we work with, and we've been trying to think of linkable asset ideas. And we found a tool, like a really old tool that like will help you determine if you have STDs. And it has a ton of links from .edu and .gov sites. And I just told the client, like, why don't we just go out and try to acquire this tool? And if we can't acquire it, why don't we just rebuild it and go out and outreach and get the same exact links?
Right.
So you can go either way, but that's another way to obviously acquire more links in a natural way, is to rebuild tools or rebuild resources that have already been proven to acquire links.
Right.
So.
Okay, so that's with the redirects. One of another, we're also building a SAAS, a form builder, online form builder, and one of the things that I kind of came up, I don't know if it's probably a common strategy, but I saw a lot of, for example, Typeform versus you're using Typeform, I think. So we're kind of building a competitive tool, but not for as a survey, but it's more like embedding in a website and still like a bunch of powerful functionalities and so forth. Okay. It's like a Google Forms on drugs, or on steroids, whatever you want to call it. So, but let's say Typeform versus Jotform, and then we were thinking to add. So some people probably search for that stuff, and they do a lot. They compare tools like this versus that. So we wanted to do it like Jotform versus Typeform versus Mightyform. That's our tool. So we add in a third one to these websites. So when somebody searches one versus the other, and then they see a third one, they're like, oh, who are these guys? And then it can also drive legitimate content and traffic. And they're like, oh, I'm going to really consider the third one as well because somebody's comparing it. So we kind of, we're building some content like that.
So would these be separate niche websites, or would they be on the actual site itself?
It would probably be on our side where we're comparing 3 different tools with us. And it would be honest comparison. We would not try and like make ourselves, all that much better. We'll just take certain features and compare them because we want people to read it and like say, okay, this tool is better for that. Like we realize the Typeform is better for like questionnaires and so forth. Like surveys, we're just not built for it. So
that's a common tactic in SaaS, is the versus posts. So and they work well, and in fact a lot of those types of keywords have low competition, so you can really dominate for those. So
even that what I found with the first client that we took recently, they had there's a really popular product, and that has a ton of links and a ton of searches, and then these guys are kind of like new, and then I'm like, well we could even write and then it has 0 KD. and nobody's searching for the product name, but nobody is really competing for the product name. So we could really like review even that product and compare it to your product right on your website and acquire all that free traffic right there. So it has like 1,000 search queries every month with zero.
Yeah. That is what you just described as one of the most untapped things in SEO that I've just been seeing across so many industries is just targeting brand names. And not your brand, like other brand names. It's so uncompetitive. It's crazy. And it doesn't even take, obviously your CTR will be low because it's a navigational term. So like a lot of the navigational terms we rank for, the CTR is like really low, but still they're easy to rank for. So it doesn't really make a difference.
Why not?
And you're just getting brand recognition too. So if you're competing against that brand, you're ranking near them, you're still getting that brand recognition, which is, obviously an intangible thing, but still it's a big deal.
Yeah.
So
we're going to tap that and see how that works.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Yeah. So what about page speed, especially like the Google tool page speed? Some like Neil Patel, for example, his website is insanely good as far as the Google page speed score goes. But on our end, I checked his WordPress site has like 3 plugins. So it's like Yoast and WP Rocket and the markup tool. And our sites, we have sometimes 50 plugins and we just can't get away from them. They don't need it. They are very complex functionalities that we have to. Then I would just go away from WordPress this way if I would just lose them. So for me, it's like, okay, the website still loads super quickly, 1.2 seconds. Like if I turn off all the plugins and score top score, I'm 1.1 second. But my score can be like 20 on the mobile, 60 on the desktop, for example. But the question is like, how important, because Google now has it in the Google Search Console and is actually showing you like, hey, your pages are slow, that's what they're telling me, but I know they're not. And then in the real world testing, they're not slow at all. So how should we go about this?
Yeah. Well, if you take a case like Neil, of course, you can see his page speed is really good. Like, obviously that's a beneficial thing, but in reality, like that's not the thing driving his results, like the thing driving his results are all the links that he has. That's obviously the factor that outweighs that substantially. But when it comes to page speed, there are diminishing returns. Mm-hmm. So like going from 1.2 to, below a second, you're not going to see any difference in performance as far as SEO. But if you were to go from 8 seconds to 2 seconds, that's a huge deal. But when you start getting below, like I like to say 3 seconds is like my target. So if you can get below 3 seconds, it's going the returns are going to be so diminishing that it's like, yes, you can go faster. Yes, you can do more stuff to make it faster. But at that point, you're really doing it just for a better user experience, not necessarily for SEO performance.
I never cared for that until I saw Google actually put it in the Google console and the search console and started complaining about my pages being slow. So I'm like, are you judging me by that? I wonder.
No, I wouldn't worry about it, honestly. If you're already around 1 second, it might be wasted effort to even try to go,
we have some pages that are going to be around 3 seconds, but like we took the main pages and we went through like, I forgot what the plugin is for WordPress, and we just stripped all the unnecessary scripts, we deferred them, and everything loads like way later. So the actual content loads up in 1.2 seconds on most of the pages.
Yeah, I think that's totally sufficient. So,
okay. Let's see what else I got. Not a whole lot left. Let's see. So with that new SEO client, we're kind of looking at, obviously, as all SEO clients, they want the fastest result possible. They want something right away. Of course. So we kind of divided it and told them, hey, look, it's going to be some long-term stuff that's mostly going to take an effect. Some stuff we can probably do faster because there's a lot of stuff that's just pure out broken. You have low CTRs because you're not, you're not utilizing any markups or anything like this. Your titles are too long. Your descriptions are too short and things of that nature. So some of that might take immediate effect. Is there anything else that you would suggest to do that could drive faster results besides new content and offsite and link building?
Yeah, as far as faster results, well, it's going to depend on the state of their website. So if they've never done SEO before, that's going to take some time. But if they already have established traffic, they're already ranking for some keywords, then the fast,
No.
so they're not, okay.
No,
So then maybe
like
it's not you.
Yeah.
Okay.
50
Yeah.
pages or something. Yeah.
So for future reference, if you do get a client that does have decent results already, the fastest way you can drive more results is just adding title modifiers and adding some modifiers within the copy of the target pages. So like, for example, if they're targeting, I don't know, Nike shoes.
Skincare.
Yeah.
The top
or
20 skincare.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Best Nike shoes. I'm pretty sure when I gave you that SEO content brief, I probably said something about title modifiers.
Yeah. We're utilizing that thoroughly. Of course.
Yeah. So that works pretty much across every industry. There are some scenarios where it doesn't make sense to use
Right.
years, but in most cases, you can squeeze that in for a lot of keywords, and that's just the fast thing you can do, because right away you immediately start dominating for those long tail queries because they're not competitive at all.
Right.
And so that's the fastest thing you can do, and then outside of that, which does require more logistics, would be optimizing the site architecture. In my experience, that's one of the fastest things that will increase results, is just pushing up the most important pages in the architecture. So, if you're trying to rank, let's say you have 5 target pages you want to rank, I would try to get those no more than 1 click deep. So you can get, yeah, exactly. If you can get them on the homepage, even better. But sometimes with some clients that can be a little tricky. So, but yeah, I mean, trying to push them up as high as you can, because it's really not super complicated to do it a lot of the time, but it's also a huge win.
Right.
And then I would say thirdly, the biggest thing is trying to find assets on the site that are relevant, and then consolidating those with some of the pages that you're really trying to target. So I'll give you an example. Like, we have a personal injury lawyer, and he just had so many articles about car accidents and car accident lawyer and just all kinds of stuff like that. So what we did is we took like a bunch of those assets, we consolidated on his car accident lawyer page. His word count on that page was like 800 words. Now it's 6,000. So, it didn't require us to create any new content. We just had to go through and, make sure it was logically structured. But immediately
as well itself. Yeah,
exactly. So where it's kind of, it's kind of a lead domino by doing that, because you're eliminating all the thin and, maybe duplicate content, and you're building out this like super authoritative page. So those 3 are the ones I'm always like trying to identify when I first work on a site. But yeah, after that, then you're going to start to go through the grind of creating new content, obviously fixing technical issues, which, some technical issues aren't really going to push the meter at all. Optimizing them it's important to do, but that alone isn't really going to do anything. The stuff that's going to do stuff is content and links.
Right.
So, and I wish, it wasn't that way, but that's just the way it is. And those are the 2 hardest things to do, of course. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
we'll push on that.
Yeah. And it's all, and I was going to say too, like, since you guys are probably new to taking on clients, it's all about managing expectations.
It is. And I tried to line up that stuff as well. I said, hey, maybe if we're lucky, we can get some stuff pretty quickly, like, using modifiers, like you said, and like consolidating some content. So I mentioned some of those things, and, fixing some technical issues that they had, like really no markups at all and things of that nature. So driving higher click-through, I thought maybe worked better as well, and Google would appreciate it.
Yeah. And I'm all for under promising when it comes to SEO. So like, when I'm on an initial sales call with the client, I literally under promise. I'm like, yeah, hopefully we can get you at 6 months, but we're probably looking around 12. And the reason I do that is because I know within the campaign, I can probably get results in 3 months to at least show something. And then that way they're like pleasantly surprised by it. So that's just the way our industry is. So you got to kind of, do it that way.
Otherwise you will deal with complaints. So
exactly. And trust me, that's not fun. So
we're testing waters. I mean, I don't know if I want to, like, it seems I love doing it. And this is the only reason I took that client. They just came to us, hey, you guys do well. Can you help us? And then I just knew that person. I'm like, I don't know if I should take you, but I'm like, sure. Okay. Let's see what we can do. I like doing it. Maybe I'll enjoy it. If I do, I will keep doing it and I'll take more clients. That's kind of,
it's good thing to take slow for sure. See if you actually enjoy it. 'Cause it's,
absolutely. I loved doing that part always for my projects, my websites, my businesses. But like commercially doing it is a whole different level. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it is.
grinding clients, calling you. I'm like,
Yeah.
gotta take it slow. So
Yep. That's for
yeah.
sure.
Let's see if I can squeeze one or two more questions. So so that the client we're working with is an e-commerce website. I guess it's very similar approach that goes into it when doing SEO, but anything particular you recommend for e-commerce websites? I know you spoke before about like really optimizing product pages, making sure they're unique content and so forth, but is there anything, and like obviously we'll do markups for products and so forth, anything else you think that would you could throw in there?
Yeah, a few things. Number one, be careful of duplicate content. That's a plague of e-commerce sites. So, and now, fortunately, with a lot of the content management systems for e-com, that handles that issue. But I've just seen it so many times with e-com sites. So that's the one thing. Make sure that's not an issue. But then from there, the biggest thing I recommend for e-com is a reverse silo. And that's just so important because it's really hard to acquire links to category pages or product pages unless they have some sort of unique quality or some or some unique like marketing angle. So like like the shave, I can never remember the brand name, the Dollar Shave Club.
Okay.
So they had good marketing and that led to links. So that's a situation where that works, but for most e-com sites, you're not going to have that level of marketing. So you're going to have to build out informational assets that will be used as the catalyst to grow the site's authority. And then you'll just have to leverage into, really smart internal linking. So that's kind of my go-to for building e-com is just focus purely on growing site authority and less on driving links to category and product pages, just because it's
pointless.
I mean, it's not necessarily pointless. It's just unnatural.
It is. It's like, hey, who's going to really buy? Who's going to really link to somebody that's just going to sell your product? It just doesn't seem natural.
Exactly. Yep, that's right. So,
all right, last one. Let's see. That's a struggle we have with one of our businesses. So we have a bunch of locations, and one of our competitors always shows up on any keyword in that industry for a local page. So for example, we are in Cleveland. You search for data recovery, they are showing up data recovery in Cleveland for the Cleveland page. So they have the Cleveland page. We have the same thing. We have the GMB set up. They're linked and so forth. But no, unless you search data recovery Cleveland, then we don't show up at all. We just, I think Google doesn't like our Cleveland GMB in particular for some reason. But yeah, this competitor somehow mastered this local SEO, and no matter what you search, it's always going to show that local city page. Anything that you would recommend for us to investigate, or what can help us perform better in that regard?
So when they search, so are they showing up organically and they're showing up in the local pack?
Wait, they always show in the local pack organically and even ads. So they do ads on the maps. Well, I think it automatically links to it. But they are definitely top 3. And I think this is where they perform better, which is something I just don't get how yet. Their GMB is incredibly good. Like they have a location in Brooklyn, and you search from Elizabeth, New Jersey, and they're showing up in Brooklyn. I'm like, how the hell? Because you have so many companies right there, and then for some reason it shows all the way across the map, and even like the number of reviews is not that many. So I'm kind of confused. How the heck did they build up such good GMB?
Yeah, it was very difficult for me to obviously give you a reason without seeing it myself. But yeah, I mean, how strong is their site compared to yours?
Stronger? Not that strong. It's I mean, they're black hatting. I mean, they bind like just from one Indian dude like 2,000 guest posts a year. So I know that for sure. So that's it's all the same format, all the same websites, .co.uk, all websites, same domain, same thing. One link in the footer, just the structure. Yeah.
Okay, so they're aggressive. They're doing aggressive SEO then.
Well, you could call it that, but it definitely is one person writing all that content. Yeah. It's like 500 words of each article. It's the same thing, same text.
Yeah. Well, honestly, just pulling purely from experience, when I see someone who's just dominating that way, More than likely, it's a factor because of domain authority, just pure strength of their website. And secondly, you may not see everything that's going on behind the scenes, which they may have entire networks set up of websites that are linking to them that are hidden from crawlers. So that happens a lot. And it's very easy. I can block Ahrefs, Majestic. They can all be blocked.
Yeah, of course.
It's very, very easy. So that's typically what I think. But I've just come to a point of SEO where I just don't even care much about the competitors unless I can pull something from them that is I can replicate. If there's nothing I can replicate from them that they're doing well, then I just okay, we just need to make our website stronger and we can just need to crush them. So that's the only way unfortunately, whatever they're doing to perform well has no impact on how you're going to perform. Yeah. So you can really only focus on what you're doing. And if your website isn't as strong or stronger, then you just have to kind of accept defeat at this point and then know that once you get to that point, hopefully you're going to beat them.
Speaking of stronger, do you believe in DA? You actually check? I know Google doesn't care for DA; they have their own algorithm, but do you go by DA?
No, I mean only because I have to sometimes as just a qualification metric. But it's not it's not important for ranking to me. I just look at links in general, and if a website has a good link profile, then I say okay, that's definitely a strong website. Yeah. But I'd probably lean more towards DR than DA at this point. I'm not really a fan of Moz's metrics, but the only reason why I use them is because it's kind of like the industry standard at this point. Yeah. But I think that will change over time because I think Ahrefs is starting to kind of push them out a little bit. Yeah. But like I said, those are just third-party metrics, so I take them with a grain of salt. Yeah. So it's even if you look at Gotch SEO's traffic on Ahrefs, it will show crazy traffic, big spikes and big declines. That never even happened on my web.
Right. For example, Ahrefs, unfortunately, it just completely disregards local SEO. And then one of our brands is entirely built on local SEO. So they don't understand that we always show up in local listings. And in some cities, we're just completely absent. And in some cities, we're dominant. And they just completely disregard it.
They do, yeah. That's exactly right. So I'm not sure why that is, but maybe they just don't have the capabilities to handle all that. So
that multiplied by however many locations you got and wherever you want to travel. So I mean, there's Bright Local that we use for that particular purpose. Yeah. To get a real picture of how we perform. Sure.
So I wish I had a more straightforward answer for you, but it's
okay. I understand. These were no easy questions, so I would expect more or less your thoughts and what you've shared as a professional working in the industry for quite some time.
So I hope this video answered some of your advanced SEO questions. And if you enjoyed this video, once again, please like it and subscribe to my channel because I'm going to be publishing a lot more videos just like this one. And in fact, I do have a video coming up very soon about on-page SEO. So I'm super excited to show you that video. I've been working on it for actually a couple months now with my video editor. So I'm excited to show you that. And if you want my personal help or you want help from one of my trained SEO experts, make sure you join Gotch SEO Academy because that's the only place where you can get one-on-one help from me because I do not take on SEO consulting clients anymore. So thank you so much for watching this video if you made it this far. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.